All right, good evening and welcome to our midweek Bible study. On Thursday nights, we're going through the Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And tonight we are going to, Lord willing, finish the book of Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes chapter 12. I'll invite you to turn there at this time if you haven't already. And while you're doing that, a couple things I wanted to mention before we get started. This is very important. We're going to also mention this on Sunday morning as well. I want to make an appeal for legal help concerning the AT&T cell antennas that we have on our church building. When we acquired the property and purchased the building, it was actually a condition of the sale, and the lease had to be honored, and the lease expiration isn't until the year 2025. So I remember when we first purchased the property, sending it to a friend of mine, not a Christian, a very good attorney, a very good legal mind. And I asked him to look at the lease, and he basically said to me that there's absolutely nothing you can do to get out of this lease. It is so bulletproof. And then he said this, not a Christian, he knows, of course, I'm a Christian. He said, actually, there is one thing that can get you out of this lease, and that's the rapture. So the problem is, between now and then, whenever that is, and we believe it's soon and very soon, our roof is leaking badly, and we cannot repair it because the leak is where the antennas are. So we have been trying, I myself personally have been trying for the better part of 5 years, and more specifically the last year and a half. I have called everyone and anyone that I could ever make contact with. I finally thought right at the beginning of the year that I had finally got a hold of somebody that might be able to help us. And sure enough, it wasn't long after that, and I kind of thought it was going to happen. They just stopped calling me back. Not that I'm a pest, but I'm a pest. And so basically what we want to do is, like the Apostle Paul, we have legal rights. And we're going to exercise our legal rights. Please know that we're not looking to sue anyone or do anything like that. I've never been sued, nor have I ever sued. I'm 58 years old. That's not our intentions. Our intention is that we want those antennas removed and relocated. We do not want them on our building for a number of reasons, chief of which is we've got to do something about that roof. And then also, we're not particularly fond of the idea of having cell antennas, especially if they upgrade them to, I'm not even going to say it because you already know what I'm talking about. They're not that right now, but so anyway, we're just making the appeal. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody in the field that can offer us legal counsel and legal advice with the goal of exercising our legal rights and getting this lease terminated and these antennas off of our roof as soon as possible. And what we'll do is if you email the office, and I don't know if they can put it back up on the screen or if it's still up on the screen, the email address is there on the screen, and you can email us, and we will send you the lease, and if you could maybe look it over and advise us and offer us legal counsel. If we have to pursue legal means, then certainly we're willing to do that. I want you to know that we have been praying about this for years, and we're just going to trust that this is God's building. This is God's church. So I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but I've just said, Lord, are you going to let AT&T get away with this on your building? But anyway, so we just need them gone. I don't want to be derogatory towards AT&T. I don't have AT&T. not just for that reason, but we just really want those antennas removed and relocated. And so anyway, I'll just leave it at that, and thank you in advance if anyone can offer us some legal help in that regard. Okay, phase 1 of our new website has been launched at jdfarag.org, and really excited. The site's purpose is to become the main portal for all the video content, including the Bible prophecy updates. And then also, Lord willing, we're also going to have real-time updates. We've got podcasts, teaching messages, and more. And also, this is really exciting, we've launched a forum, a discussion forum on the site, and I'm told it's already generating hundreds of thousands of page views from people discussing Bible prophecy related topics. So if you haven't already, you might want to log in and provide your email address, and then you will start receiving notifications. And again, this is just phase 1. We're really excited to see what the Lord's going to do with it. We appreciate your prayers for us and certainly your patience with us on this as well. All right, Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Can I say it again? You know what I'm going to say, right? Because you're tired of me saying, I'm really looking forward to what the Lord has for us in this chapter, this final chapter in this book. We now come to the conclusion of the matter and the conclusion of the book. And I went back into my notes to see when we started this book, and it was actually almost 3 months ago. Not bad. We did about a chapter a week. So about 3 months ago, we started our study, verse by verse study through this book. So tonight, it comes to an end. And as we're about to see, Solomon, who embarked on this journey to find meaning and purpose in life without God, life under the sun, S-U-N, has now finally come to his conclusion. And as we've talked about before, he kind of needed to go through all of this. And so did we. We had to go through this grueling, frustrating at times process over the last 3 months, listening to Solomon talking about vanity, all is vanity. One verse in particular sticks out in my mind where he talks about the years of your miserable life. I mean, wow, how perky is this? What a Debbie Downer. But he finally comes to the end and the conclusion here in this book. One has suggested, actually the rabbis believe that Solomon wrote the book of the Song of Solomon, which, by the way, is the next book we're going to start. Parental discretion advised. If you're going to put an R rating on it, it have to be R restricted. In Israel, they don't let the the young Jews read that book until they're at least age 13. Makes you want to read it more, right? When you're watching something and it says, some material may be inappropriate for some viewers, viewer discretion advised. You're like, oh, wow, cool. What's it about? Well, it's kind of like the Song of Solomon. Very interesting book, but it's believed that he wrote that book when he was younger. He wrote the book of Proverbs when he was middle-aged, and he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes in his old age, and that's what we're going to see here tonight. Like last week, we kind of painted the picture of I've already forgot the word. That's my memory, which we're going to talk about tonight. Kanikapila? That wasn't very convincing. I must have really botched the word. But it's that gathering together and talking story and breaking bread and fellowshipping. And here Uncle Solomon's going to sit down and he's going to impart to us his wisdom. All of the years, and he's going to impart to us all that he's learned, all the wisdom over the years, now in his older years. So he's going to come to this conclusion. We're going to talk about this at the conclusion of our Bible study tonight, but the conclusion is fear God and obey his commandments. Fear and obey God. And he says even why. He says it's because in the end, this is man's all. And I'll add, not only is it man's all, and it's God's will as well as man's all, is to fear and obey God. And we're going to talk about what it really means to fear God. So why don't we pray? And we'll ask God to bless our time together, if you would join with me. Thank you, Lord, for your word. And Lord, thank you for this book. Thank you for this chapter, this final chapter here in Ecclesiastes. Lord, we're with great anticipation, posturing ourselves before you tonight, humbly, but also hungry and thirsty, knowing that only you can satiate that hunger and that thirst that we have. Lord, we so look forward to these midweek Bible studies where we can just come to this beautiful church building that you've given to us, and a safe place, a comfortable place to open up our Bibles, open up our hearts, open up our eyes and our ears, and just receive from you as you minister to us. So, Lord, will you speak into our lives? Will you even show us things that we need to see, perhaps things that we've been petitioning your throne concerning? Answer questions that we've asked of you. Show us things that we've inquired of you. Reveal to us, Lord, that which we have been seeking. Here in your word we pray. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. All right, let's jump in. We're in for a treat tonight. So, verse 1, he says, remember, hang on to that word. It's not what you think. Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and the difficult days come, and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. In other words, you young people, do it when you're young, because when you get older, it ain't going to happen. And he's going to tell us why here in the verses that follow. But he's saying to the young, now he's older, wiser, he's saying to the young, remember, which carries with it the idea of act decisively. And I'll explain how I get there. You know, in the Old Testament where we'll read oftentimes where, and God remembered Noah. What? He forgot? wait. He remembered, kind of like, oh yeah, Noah. I totally forgot. And God remembered Abraham and Sarah. What? It doesn't mean that. It means this, that God's action decisively was brought to the forefront of his remembrance, and he acted. God remembered Abraham and Sarah, and Isaac was born. God remembered Noah. God remembered, and you can just go on throughout all of the Old Testament where you read God remembered. This is what Solomon is saying here, is at the forefront of your remembrance. Act decisively. And do this. And do it when you're young, because I assure you, when you get older, you're not going to be able to do that which when you're young, you're able to do. You're going to be unable. And possibly even disabled. And you cannot do that which you can do when you're younger. Oh, by the way, just parenthetically, I learned this a few years ago, and boy, am I so glad I did, because it kind of changed everything. You know the word handicap? That's very derogatory. Do you know where it came from? The beggar that's disabled with the cap in their hand, asking for a handout. And that's why they call them handicapped, cap in hand. Man, when I first heard that, I'm like, I will never say that word again. Not handicapped, disabled. Disabled. What does disabled mean? You're not able. You're disabled. And when you get older, you're going to be unable, even disabled. So do it when you're young. Now he's going to expound on this, and it's going to get, well, let me just put it this way. Beginning here in verse 2, for those of us that are older, this is going to really hit home, okay? So listen to what he says, verse 2. While the sun and the light, the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain. He's using poetic language to describe the state of one's mind when they get older. A little bit cloudier, a little more difficult. It's not like it was when you were young. You're not quite as sharp as when you're young. He's talking about the mind. Verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble, he's talking about your legs. They get a little bit shakier the older you get. And then he says, the strong men bow down. That's the back. Even as I read it, I'm feeling it. As you get older, it's kind of like, you know, when you're young, you drop a penny, you're picking that thing up. You get older, you drop a quarter. Nah, it's not worth it. You know, you get older, you get heavier, and you drop something. I was thinking about this today. Tying your shoelaces. It's kind of like, maybe I could just put the shoe up here on the counter and then try to, you know, just that back, and you're just kind of hunched over, and as you get older. It's called gravity. Thank God there's no gravity in heaven. How about this imagery? When the grinders cease, because they are few. You know what he's talking about? Teeth! Yeah, the teeth! What's that saying? I think it goes something like this. Getting old isn't for wimps. It's not for... Wait, here's what happens. You get old and everything starts going. And he's going to talk about the eyesight here in a moment. And sometimes I wonder if it's the grace of God. Because, you know, the eyes, your eyesight when you get older, it's not as good as it was when you were younger. And maybe that's the grace of God, because then you can't see how old you're getting. You know, you look and then the hearing. I like the hearing, you know, that kind of goes a little bit too. He's going to talk about that in a moment. But as you get older, just as those things kind of go south, it's kind of God's just protection, I think. Just, you know, the teeth, that's a bummer, because you can't eat as much unless you get dentures. But anyway, I digress. So he moves on, And he says, and those that look through the windows grow dim. That's the eyesight. Verse 4, how you doing? Everybody okay? You young people are going, what are you talking about? I'm fine. Whatever. Verse 4, when the doors are shut in the streets and the sound of grinding is low, that's your hearing. That's your ears. It gets worse. When one rises up at the sound of a bird and all the daughters of music are brought low. He's talking about when you get older, just the slightest sound wakes you up. You know how it is when you're younger? This is a biggie for me. In fact, I struggled. I have to confess, preparing tonight's teaching when I got to this particular verse, because I like to sleep. Sleep is very important. And you know, it's kind of interesting. When you're younger, you are grounded with the very things that when you're older, you only dream of. You have to stay home and you have to go to your room. You promise I can? I would do anything. You know, you have to take a nap. Please, I would love to take a nap. The only problem is in the middle of the day, I'm trying to take a nap and I'm praying, oh, Lord, help me. Just kind of, maybe I'll listen to some, Bible teaching or worship music. That'll help. Doesn't help. And then I'm laying there, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, man, I need to get that. Oh, I forgot. And then next thing you know, you're up, and it's even worse. And then you lost that 15 minutes or whatever it was trying to take a nap. Anyway, enough of my problems. Well, let's talk about sleep just for a moment here. You know, when you're young, when I was young, you could change the sheets while I was sleeping on the bed upon which I was sleeping, and it wouldn't wake me up. Now you just open the closet door to get the sheets downstairs. I wake up. And there's actually a neurological explanation for it. The brain chemicals and all that melatonin, that makes you sleep, and it changes as you get older, and that's what Solomon is alluding to. Verse 5. Also, this is interesting. They are afraid of height and of terrors in the way. You know what this is speaking to? You know how when you get older, there's that fear of falling and breaking a hip, because, and we're going to talk about this in a moment too, you're just more frail. And then he says, when the almond tree blossoms. Now I thought about this. So I went to the commentaries. They're always a good help. And I'm glad I did on this, because I didn't want to know this, but this is talking about gray hair. Or no hair. When the almond tree blossoms, the white as you get older. You know how young people are really into their hair? I was into my hair when I was young. No, you ready for this? No, seriously. For real. When I was young, I had a huge afro. I know that, yeah. God bless you, brother. Right here, man. I feel you, brother. Man after my own heart right there. Hey, brother, enjoy it now. If the Lord tarries, it's going bye-bye. This was back in the 70s. I had this huge afro. And I had the afro pick. You have one of those? Yeah. I put it in my hair. It was so cool. I thought I was cool. And then my poor mom and dad, please get the haircut. I will give you money. Go get the haircut. I hated getting haircuts because I wanted my afro, and it was huge. In fact, I had to sit, this is no exaggeration, I had to sit at the back of the class, because if I sat in front of my classmate, they couldn't see anything, because, no, it was that big. I got pictures to prove it. There's actually an application, a sanctified application here. I'll get to it in just a moment. When you're young, enjoy that. Because when you're older, you're not going to enjoy that. And then he says, the grasshopper is a burden. This is where I believe he's talking about weakness and frailty. You know, when you're older, when you're younger, you're invincible, right? So we have this, down our lane where we live, we have this fence. It's not a high fence, but they put locks on the gates to keep, people from walking through the lawn. But they gave us the combination so we can walk through. Well, the combination is one of those old locks where you got to turn it, it's got to be like a partly cloudy Tuesday, windward Malka showers, the conditions have to be just perfect, and then you got to get it just right, and then finally it opens. And there's 2 gates. You have to go through 2 of these locks. I just looked at it and I just thought, man, first of all, I got to bend down, and then I can't see the numbers, so I got to put on my glasses, and then finally get open. Then I think, well, maybe I'll just crawl over the fence. I did that one time. It almost required hospitalization. I will never do it again. But when I was young, I could have just leaped over that thing. I don't want to get too graphic on this next one. I think it speaks for itself. But he says, and desire fails. He's talking about passion as you get older. When you're young, you're in the prime of your life. Again, I just say for any young people watching here, enjoy that while you're young. Okay, let's move on. For man goes to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. What Solomon is referring to here is when you get older, you will attend more memorial services with your friends that have passed away before you. And he's not talking about his death. That's coming up. I mean, that's where it all ends, right? He's going somewhere with this. Remember, we're coming to the ultimate conclusion of the matter. Verse 6, he says, remember again your Creator before the silver cord is loosed or the golden bowl is broken. This speaks poetically, metaphorically to the memory. Oh, this is a biggie, isn't it? You just don't quite recall things that you used to be able to when you get older. The memory goes as well. And then he says, or the pitcher shattered at the fountain. He's talking about breathing, the lungs. Or the wheel broken at the well. He's talking about the heart. Then, how's everybody doing? Okay, we're getting through this, right? If you're anything like me, right about now, your back aches. You're feeling everything here. So, verse 7, this is where he talks about death. He says, then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. That's how it all ends. So he's going to turn a corner, thank God, in verse 8. And he says, vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity, meaningless, empty. And verse 9, moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still, keyword, taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. What's he saying here? He's saying, I'm getting too old for this, but I'm still going to teach the younger people this. I think this speaks to something that's lost in the church today. We have reference to it in the New Testament as it relates to the older women taking the younger women under their wings and teaching them. And certainly the same is true for the older men, taking the younger men under their wings and teaching them, imparting to them. as young men. You may not feel like it. Solomon's like, man, I just told you how I feel. Every aspect of my hearing, my eyesight, my memory, my hair. I guess he had hair. It was just gray. That's okay. He had hair. That's fine. But, I mean, his physical condition, and yet he still will teach the young people when he's old. Verse 10, the preacher sought to find acceptable words, and what was written was upright, words of truth. The words, verse 11, of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. In other words, as goads prod cattle, so too do words of wisdom prod people. You know, there is power in the written word and the spoken word. We're going to actually talk a little bit about this on Sunday, Lord willing, as we also finish 1 Timothy chapter 6, by the way. On Sunday morning, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of the tongue. Words have the power of life and death. Yours and my words can kill somebody, or they can give life to somebody. That's how powerful the words are. I'm thinking of James, who talks about being able to tame wild beasts, being able to control large ships, but not being able to control this tongue, which can set a fire, a blaze, and cause unspeakable damage in its wake. Just the power of words. What Paul is going to warn Timothy about is, as some translations render it, godless chatter. Other translations render it idle babblings, pointless, worthless, godless. And yet, we engage, particularly when it comes to social media. And we're going to talk about that elephant in the room. We're going to wade into alligator-infested waters. So now if you don't come on Sunday, we'll know why. So now you have to come on Sunday. Verse 12. And further, my son, again, Solomon, the wise old sage, coming to the conclusion of the matter. And he's earned the right, by the way. You know, when you're talking with someone, or better said, somebody is talking with you that's been around the block, they've seen a thing or two, they've experienced life. Oh, I have to share this. It's something that, you know how we say, I wish I would have known then what I know now? I so wish that I would have spent more time with my parents before they died. I so wish I would have spent more time sitting at my mom's feet and just learning from her, and my father as well, just learning from them, even just more about what I was like as a child. Because you know how when you're a parent, you always tell your children, you just wait till you have children of your own. And then when you're young, you're like, yeah, whatever. And then my parents died before my children were born, sadly. But man, when my firstborn son, I mean, it was like I could just hear my mom in that thick accent saying to me, well, you just wait till you have children of your own. I'm like, oh, Mom, I wish I would have listened. I have children of my own. You were right. So many things that I wish I would have listened to her and learned from her. And this is what really Solomon is saying here. And he says, and further, my son, be admonished by these. That's not a word we use much anymore, is it? Admonished, corrected, instructed, exhorted. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. I'm going to bear witness to that. There are times where I just have to walk away and just, I remember I went out, when I say I don't get out much, that's not hyperbole. I went out the other day to get the mail. Usually I have my daughter go get it. I went out to get the mail, my big excursion for the day. It was really exciting. Couldn't wait. Got my slippers on, walked to the mailbox, got the mail. I'm like, wow, Hawaii's beautiful. Right? Come on, you do that too, right? Isn't it interesting? I'll never forget when we first moved here, 2003, 16, going on 17 years ago. And I just remember the pigeons, the doves, the birds. And I just remember the smells. And I remember, and then the coal, I was just looking at the coal, I was going, God, this is amazing. If this fallen world is this spectacular, what is heaven going to be like? I mean, this is truly a tropical paradise. And I remember one time just saying to the Lord, I never want to take this for granted. You know, I always want to appreciate the beauty of the islands. Well, life happened. I mean, it wasn't 6 months, maybe a year at best. I didn't hear those birds anymore. I didn't see the car. I'm in the car, they're right there, but I'm not looking at them. I'm looking at the car in front of me that cut me off. Because I'm late, I'm busy, I'm stressed. And just well, I've shared this before. I don't want to go on and on. Plus, I want to get to the conclusion of the matter. Some of you are saying, please do. Okay. Verse 13, here it is. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Here it is. This sums everything up. Fear God and keep His commandments. For this is man's all. And then he says this, verse 14. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Why would he say that on the heels of, why couldn't he just, that's a good way to end it. Fear God, keep His commandments, for this is man's all. Period. Why does he have to add verse 14? Oh, there's a reason. Because the fear of the Lord is different for those who do not know the Lord. It's the fear of the judgment of God. That's why he put it there. I think about in the Old Testament where you read those chilling words that say there was no fear of God in their eyes. They did not fear God. There was no fear of the judgment of God, and it was because of that they lived the lives of debauchery and sinfulness and evil and wickedness that they lived because they didn't fear God. That's for the non-believer. That's what the fear of God is. It's the fear of the judgment of God. And it is a fearful thing because God will judge. God will bring judgment. Judgment is coming. And that's another thing I think that's lost in our day from the pulpits in the church today is that God is going to judge this world. Judgment is coming. He has to. He's a just God. If he wasn't a just God, he would not be a loving God. And if he wasn't a loving God, he wouldn't be a just God. God is just, and God will bring just judgment upon the world, and that's a fearful thing. But what about for the believer? What does the fear of the Lord mean? I want to spend a little bit of time on this, the remainder of our time on this, and I want to draw your attention to the book of Proverbs. Replete throughout the book of Proverbs, we have mention after mention concerning the fear of the Lord and what it is, what it does, and what it accomplishes and brings in the life of God's people. I'll start with Proverbs 1 verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So right out of the chute, what's the fear of the Lord? It's the beginning of knowledge, the beginning of understanding. Proverbs 9 verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. In other words, to fear the Lord is to birth wisdom, the beginning of wisdom. Maybe I can say it this way, the catalyst for wisdom. It's that fear, that reverence, that awe of God, that total reliance and dependence and looking to God, a holy fear, a fear of the Lord that births wisdom. It's the beginning, it's the start point for wisdom. Maybe you're here tonight and you're asking the Lord for wisdom. The catalyst for that wisdom from above is the fear and awe and reverence for the Lord. Proverbs 15 verse 33. The fear of the Lord is the instruction for wisdom, and before honor comes humility. Have you noticed there's kind of this common theme as it relates to humility? Stay with me. We know that with humility comes wisdom, like with pride comes folly. It goes both ways. So what's the connection between the fear of the Lord and humility? Watch this. It's a humbling of oneself in awe and reverence and fear of Almighty God. It's a humbling of oneself. Proverbs 10 verse 27. This is interesting. The fear of the Lord prolongs life. Oh, you want a long, fulfilling, blessed, prosperous life? The fear of the Lord is what prolongs and enriches and blesses that life. But look at the contrast. But the years of the wicked will be shortened, cut off. Proverbs 14, verse 27. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may avoid the snares of death. It's protective and directive, the fear of the Lord. You're walking in the fear of the Lord. And then Proverbs 19, verse 23. The fear of the Lord leads to life, so that one may sleep. There's my sleep again. Did you see that right there? So that one may sleep satisfied, untouched by evil. Oswald Chambers of the fear of God wrote, the remarkable thing about God is that when you fear God, you fear nothing else. Whereas if you do not fear God, you fear everything else. I heard it said that you cannot fear God unless you obey God. And you cannot obey God unless you fear God. Now, again, as a Christian, please, because the enemy doesn't want you to hear this. The enemy wants to paint this picture of fear of God, where you keep your distance from God, like God is angry. Be afraid. Be very afraid. No, not at all. It's not like that. It's like this. The fear of God is walking in the fear of the Lord, that you are so fearful of doing anything that would grieve Him. That's the fear of the Lord. You love Him so much that you fear doing anything that would grieve the heart of God. The Proverbs also say to fear the Lord is to hate evil. To fear the Lord is to hate the things that God hates. And to fear the Lord is to hate doing the things that God hates. That's the fear of the Lord. It's loving God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, all your being. That you just walk in this holy fear. I don't want to do anything that would grieve the heart of my God. Let me bring it by way of an example, into the marriage context. I love my wife very much, more than anything. Been married for 32 years, next month in November, 32 years. And I love her so much that I'm always, I don't want to use the phrase walking on eggshells, but it is kind of like that. I'm hypersensitive to doing anything that I know will hurt her. Just even going back to talking about the power of our words, I don't want to say anything that would hurt her. I don't want to be mean to her, say anything to hurt her. Same thing with my children. I love them so much. My fear is that I will do anything that would grieve them, hurt them, wound them, injure them. That's the fear of the Lord. I tell you, it comes with maturity. You grow in grace, you mature in Christ. And the more you mature in your walk with the Lord and you love Him, isn't it evidenced by your obedience to Him? That's what Jesus said when He said, and John echoed it, if you love me, you'll obey my commandments. I know I shared this before, but I guess it's apropos just real quick to share it again. My mom used to always use that on me. If you loved me, you would obey me. Man, I was a rotten kid. I must not love. I love my mom, but why am I such a dirty, stinking, rotten, disobedient son? And she's like, if you really love me, you'd be more obedient. I'm like, oh my goodness, I must not love you because I don't obey you. I'm so disobedient. That's not what Jesus was saying. What He was saying was, as you grow in love, and by the way, what is the fruit of the Spirit? Love that grows. It takes time to grow. And as your love grows, what comes packaged with that love is obedience. You're walking in love, in the Holy Spirit, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, and you're walking in obedience because of it. They go hand in hand. That's what the fear of the Lord is. It's just this hyper sensitivity to the heart of God. I think of David. Interesting. I still have such fond memories of our study through the life of David in 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, Chronicles as well. But this was a man that had a heart after God's own heart. You know what that really means? When you say a heart after God's own heart, in one sense, it's he wanted so much to know the heart of God. He was pursuing hard after the heart of God. But it's also in this sense. You know how with a father and a son, mother and a daughter as well, they take after you. That's what it means too. He's got his father's eyes. He's got his father's heart. His heart is after his father's heart, his God's heart. A heart for God. A heart after God. A heart like God. A heart, in fact, my son and I were talking about this today. We're talking about all the, oh man, things are getting bad, right? It's not just me, right? I mean, I keep telling him, I just say, you know, I don't want to see that, because you can't unsee that. It's just so evil. It's so demonic. The lawlessness and the violence and the things that people, truly I believe they're demon-possessed, some of the things that people are doing to people right now. And, of course, this is what Paul wrote to Timothy, would be a marker, a prophecy, a sign of the last days, of the violence and the treacherous, murderous lawlessness that would come. So he made a comment. It was really kind of insightful. He said, you know, Baba, you never used to be like that. I said, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just, you know, when you get older, you get softer. Your heart just gets more tender and softer. Things grieve your heart more. You know why that is? Because those are things that grieve the heart of God. One more thing, and I think this is the Holy Spirit that just prompted me on this, and I think it probably needs to be said. You know, there needs to come a time in our Christian lives where we just can no longer watch television programs or movies that glorify the very things that Jesus died for. You know, when you're younger in the Lord, you're immature, spiritually immature. You know, it doesn't get to you as much. But when you get older, your heart gets softer. And those things, they hurt. They grieve your heart. Why do they grieve your heart? Because your heart is after God's own heart. You have a heart for God. And you know that grieves God's heart. And you know when you get to that place in your life, that's the fear of the Lord. Where you're laughing at things that Jesus died for. You're watching things on that screen that put Jesus on the cross, that grieve the heart of God. And when that grieves you too, that's the fear of the Lord. It's the beginning of wisdom. It prolongs life. It is life. It gives life. You hate that evil. You cannot look at it. You cannot be entertained by it. You cannot seek after it. That's the fear of the Lord. Why don't you all stand? We'll pray. Lord. It's just feel like there's just so much more that you really wanted said tonight about this. Lord, I don't think there's a one of us here in this church or even watching online that doesn't want to be numbered amongst those of whom it could be said, They have a heart after God's own heart. They have a heart for God. They fear God. They're walking in the fear of the Lord. They're walking in obedience, and that's why. Oh, Lord. Lord, I pray that for every single one of us, there's an Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13 written on our lives. That the conclusion of the matter is to fear you, to obey you, to be pleasing to you, pleasing in your sight. Lord, thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.